Hey guys, it's your primary tech advisor here, and today I'll be teaching you guys how to build a basic calculator. So what this calculator will be doing is it'll ask for two numbers from the user, and then it'll ask for their desired operation, and this operation will then, let's say, multiply, add, subtract, or divide these two numbers as the user has entered. And building such a calculator is really helpful for beginners because it will help them wrap their mind around how a variable is used in Python, as well as how to distinguish strings from numbers, and ask data from the user, and use if statements. So it sounds complicated, but it's really the most basic thing you can start with in Python. Now, first we'll start by asking for the variables. So number one, then OP, meaning operation, number two, meaning the second number. Now, rather than entering 3 and defining these operations like so, what we'll have to do is ask from the user what they want, and in order to do so, we have to enter input, and then enter the question, enter your first number. So this string will run, they will see this, and they will enter the number beside it, and then what will happen is that number will be stored within this variable. However, when this happens, this number will be stored as a string, so it will appear like this, and we don't want that because with a calculator you need to multiply numbers, you need to add them, you need them to work with each other, and strings, when you multiply them, they just won't work. That's not allowed. So what we'll have to do is convert this into a number using float. So what will happen, closing the parentheses, what will happen is this float will apply to the rest of the input. So what will happen is, let's say they enter 4, that string will then be converted into a number and it'll be stored in number 1. So when we recall it using the if statements later on, it will then be divisible, it will then be able to be added, etc. So for the operation, we do not need it to be a number because the user doesn't enter a number. So that's our question, and as mentioned earlier, yep, we need to convert this string into a number. So float input So now that our variables are defined, I'll just quickly show you what will happen when we run this. So as you can see, it asks me a question, enter your first number, and we can enter a number beside it. Enter your operation, okay, I want to enter plus. Enter your second number, I want to enter 70. But it won't work because we haven't defined what will happen when the user enters a plus. So in order to do so, we will then use if statements. So just to give you a refresh, minus, this is how the computer interprets these operations. So divide is like so, and multiplication is like a star. And this is important because let's say a user enters X rather than a star, then we can still, we have to make sure we use the correct operations. We have to make sure we don't go number 1. If we want to multiply number 1 with number 2, we don't go X number 2. That's incorrect. So I'll demonstrate what will happen. So in order to create an if statement, you just simply go if, and I want to define the operation. So let's say the user enters minus. Then we will print out the first number minus the second number. Now, when we want to define another, then we have to go elif. Sorry, I missed the colon there. Elif. And let's say the user enters X when willing to multiply. Then we will print out the first number multiplying using a star by the second. And again, we go elif to define the next operation. So let's say they want to add. Then we will print out the first number adding to the second number. Then let's say they want to divide. Then we'll print out the first number dividing the second, like so. Now, this will be functional. However, let's say the user enters a random number that is not one of these operations. So rather than going out and just saying elif or p equals, let's say all the characters like n, and then doing that for the next s, d, all the keys of the keyboard. Rather than doing that, what we can do is just go else, and then leave an empty space, and then print out what will happen when when the user enters that random number or letter. So we will print out you have So this will print out when the user enters something that is not one of these defined operations. So when I run this code, then it will ask for the first number. Let's say I want 90. I want then to add this 90 to a 70. So it'll be 160. Yep, that's correct. However, if I've entered a wrong operation, so let's say I enter you instead of an operation, and then let's say, okay, whatever, 70. Sorry, my bad, I did not. Yeah, so let's go 20, then enter your operation, you 10, then it'll ask you have entered the wrong operation. So as you can see, it is functional. So entering a different operation that is not defined, it will then come up with this message. So hopefully you guys have attempted this, and if you have any questions, yeah, please comment down below. And yeah, hopefully you find this helpful, and this definitely sparked my interest in Python because it's a really interactive way. It's really hands-on. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys.